today's episode of Future Says, we have Tim Marquis, Senior Product Manager, Precision Agriculture Analytics at John Deere. Tim, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thanks, Sean, for having me. It's great to be here and really talk about like how we're bringing tech into ag and how we're helping farmers grow more sustainably and have more productive machines.
Amazing. So tell us more about your role at John Deere.
Yeah, so I sit at really the nexus between our customers and our data scientists and data engineers. So really, I'm one day in the cab of a tractor talking to a farmer about all the decisions they're having to make and understanding how they grow this crop and how they're thinking about their business and their profitability, and then bringing some of those insights back to our data science team and be like, look, guys, how do we bring data into this to help validate or change what they're thinking about from their trial and error approach of understanding how they grow this crop, that we can give them this information so that they can truly like improve their business and help feed and clothe the world.
Okay, so where is data coming from on a farm nowadays?
So it's coming from basically everywhere. You got to think about like the field and the machine. So we have over 500,000 live connected machines that flow into our platform. And that machine is collecting both information about how it's operating, like your engine coolant temperature, your fuel, and you're also getting information about like how many seeds are going in the ground, what product rate you're putting down for protecting that crop and giving it nutrients. And even at the end of the day, the most important layer, how much crop is being pulled off, because that's your revenue. That's your scorecard to know how you did this season and how you can make improvements going forward.
Amazing. And are farmers really engaged by this, or is there some sort of resistance to change, some sort of debating?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I would say farmers, they're quiet, but they are some of the most advanced tech users you're ever going to find. For example, like the machine itself has been driving straight lines without a driver since the 1990s. And we've been turning the machine around in the 2000s. So when we talk about autonomy and where we're going in this vision, the machine is already driving mostly itself, with the operator just making sure they're not hitting anything. Our challenge with automation is that there are 20 other things they're doing in that cab. If you ever step into that cab, you're going to see 3 displays, joysticks, buttons. All of that requires their attention around making sure that seed is going precisely into the furrow so that they can have it emerge uniformly, because that is what ultimately results in their revenue.
So do we have autonomous tractors today?
We do. So we actually have it out in 7 states. The first step when we talk about our autonomy journey at John Deere, there's steps you take through the production. So the first one we call prepare tillage, where you're laying the groundwork of that soil. And we started our automation journey there. And the reason why is because typically that step happens at the same time of a very busy season, which is the fall and harvest. You need an operator in the combine, which is harvesting the crop. The combine needs to offload that grain into a tractor hauling a cart, which you need a grain cart driver. And then you need semi-truck drivers, and typically you need more than one of these machines, but these pairs have to happen. So you're talking about 3 very experienced operators, and then at the same time, you need to be tilling that ground. So typically, because of how you're pressured about the winter approaching, you need to get that crop out as fast as you can. If you're stressed because weather has thrown a wrench in your plans, the first thing to drop is tillage, which then already sets you up for the spring to have challenges around getting that crop into the ground, which again, that time window is so tight. If you have to do a pass of a machine before then, you're really going to have some tough logistical challenges you have to overcome.
So autonomous tractors in 7 states. What's holding back the other 43?
Really, as we just go through production and as we think through how do we roll this out and get it out into the market and get people comfortable with the idea of stepping out of that cab. I think that's really the key part of any autonomy journey when you're talking about any users, is there's a trust factor that you have to overcome. And we really want to give customers confidence that this machine can do the job. And we'll just continue producing our tractors and start rolling this out over time.
How do you build that confidence amongst the customer base?
So I think of it as a multi-pronged approach, right? First, we enable the customer through our Operations Center software to understand how the machine did the job. So before you even talk about automation, we need to make sure they know what is a good job, what metrics have happened. And then what you do is you start figuring out what are the settings or things that they do that enable them to automate some of that mental headache that they're doing in their head in the cab. So you have that automation software. And so Sooner or later, you start realizing you're not thinking about 20 different things in the cab. You're thinking about 2 things or 1 thing. And then finally, you take that person out and introduce that perception system and then give them the accessibility with full connectivity on their phone to monitor that machine. And they'll watch it. You're never going to get someone to probably not even leave the edge of the field. They're going to sit there and probably watch that tractor to make sure they get that last confidence piece that I can leave this field and really be doing other things in order to keep my operation going.
Sure. So we've got autonomous tractors. Does that necessarily mean that they're good for the environment? Are they all electric tractors as well?
Yeah, so when you think about, as we look at sustainability practices, right, we take it seriously. We acquired a company called Keisel out of Austria. Our machines require so much horsepower that, a lot of people are like, well, where's the electric tractor? Like, why is it not here today? The reality is the battery pack would be the size of this room, right? And weigh thousands of pounds that weigh down the machine that you would never even get out of the machine itself. So we think about hybrid technologies around what are some of the electric motors that we can power with a battery pack, but maybe not totally shift away from combustion engines. That, and of course, there's all sorts of research going on with biofuels to kind of reduce our environmental footprint. The other thing you think about with sustainability and growing is we have a key role to play here with carbon capture, right, into the soil. So we actually won an award recently around the sustainability tools that we enabled in our operations center software at the farm for farmers to understand how much carbon capture they're actually putting in their field. And so they can participate in carbon programs that we've enabled through Operations Center, because we actually have 60% of the data needed to sign up for these programs. The key barrier to entry has been a huge amount of data entry they have to do manually, which makes it, time is money for them. They don't have the time. So we really feel like we have a key role to play in this space because we are the trusted source for this data from the farm that we can help them participate.
You mentioned analytics there as well, and where are some of the hotspots for analytics that your team are currently working on? Is it a lot about sustainability, or is it a lot about lots of different things?
We're in a lot of different arenas. I would say part of the key parts of my team is really thinking about logistics, right? Put yourself in the owner of this farm. Your fields might be spread out over 60 miles. You have planters ones in the northwest corner, another planter in the southeast, your farm's in the center. You have to have machines be refilling that planter with product like seed and chemical and fuel and DEF. And typically your trucks are having to support multiple machines running in the field. So it's pretty easy for when you start trying to do it manually, how delays can happen where you aren't noticing you're about to run out of product and you got to get on the radio and say, hey, I'm going to be out. And the driver's like, great, I'm 45 minutes away from you. Let's spread out over. So logistics is a key focus for us. And it's an interesting piece where, because we have the machine data and the agronomic happening at the same time, so we know what rate the seed's coming out of that machine or the product out of a sprayer, we can start predicting when are you going to run out, bringing that visibility to the fleet and letting those operators start logistically planning how they get that truck and where they get that truck in the field.
And of course, is that where the magic artificial intelligence helps as well, Tim?
Of course. It's where my team thrives, right? So we actually have a model. It might not be new to tech, but we can do the time it will take to complete a field. That's live in Operations Center today. So when you go to plan your day, you can see, just like Google Maps, if I want to go from here to an airport, it's going to take me 30 minutes. I now can say it's going to take you 2.5 hours to finish tilling this field. And we're pretty accurate. We're down to several minutes accuracy, and it's including way more than just the machine is this wide and moving at this speed, right? It's not just a linear interpolation. We have a fully baked live running model on our live data stream that updates in real time for that operator to understand when they're going to get done.
Okay, so who's the team working on this at John Deere?
Yeah, so we have about a huge team of data scientists that I work with at ISG and data engineers. What we mostly do is we ingest all the fleet data, structure it in a way that lets us look across the orgs that have shared information with Deere. And then I take those customer use case problems, work with our data scientists around how we solve them. And with that data, we build our ML models in the cloud. So it's a pretty fun job, if I gotta be honest.
Do you know what the most difficult step in that data science workflow is?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone knows like data quality is always a key factor, right? When you're dealing with any sort of information at this scale. So how do you ensure that whatever is coming out of the machine can be trusted and be used for our modeling? Because if you put garbage in, you're not going to get very good results at the back. So data quality is something we live and breathe that keeps me up at night as a product manager. Also, just the economy of scale of how we serve these ML models on live platforms when you have 500,000 machines you're serving at any given time. So it's a key challenge, but we're pretty proud of the progress we've made so far. As I said, we definitely have, I think, one of the first machine learning models running on a live stream in agriculture.
Wow, that's so cool. As a product manager, then, how many products are you responsible for, and what exactly do those products do?
Yeah, so Operations Center has 4 key components. So I have PMs that I'm paired with that are on the front end of the application. So what we've really done is taken data science as a product space in our data platform, and then I coordinate with our frontline PMs around, hey, does this model, with logistics make sense in live monitoring? Does it make sense to go down to the display? Do we do analysis on the field where we're doing a product where we can understand the nitrogen use efficiency on a field? So that's a geospatial analysis of how much product's put down and serving that up as a new derived map layer that goes into Operations Center. So I'm really working across multiple parts of Operations Center and everything that it does. We're infusing the data science products into each part of that software solution.
Okay. And why farming? Are you a farmer by trade?
No, so I actually, I may have grown up in Wisconsin, but I'm a meteorologist by trade. So I
Okay.
went to Oklahoma for meteorology and Iowa State for my master's. And when I was at Iowa State, I had the gift of a professor that was both an agronomist and a meteorologist. So at that point, I got to see the bridge of how weather applied to agriculture, a space I knew very little about at the time. And then I went to a private weather company, and we had to figure out how to deliver rainfall for fields for different digital farming solutions. And we had never had an ag company approach us before. And the CEO at the time was like, "Hey Tim, you went to Iowa State. You're the closest one we have in Oklahoma to someone in ag." And I just took that deep dive, and I haven't left it since. It's such a fascinating space.
So how important is the weather for a farmer, and is there anything that they can do to change it or to be prepared for it?
Yeah. So weather is chaos, right? You think about yields, which is the amount of crop that's grown. It's done into 3 core tenets. You have your genetics of your seed can impact that yield, the environment, and then the management practices you have. We're never going to control the weather. It's never going to happen, right? So you're always going to have chaos thrown into that equation that you can't help. In fact, that's why when people ask me like, why ag? What's so challenging about ag? It's like, it's not rocket science. It's harder. You're dealing with a living organism that is completely exposed to the environment. And all you're trying to do is make hundreds of decisions, knowing that a hailstorm could come and take your best laid plan and completely ruin everything. So the important thing is we need to understand how weather is impacting that crop so that we can try to find ways where we can accommodate for extreme weather and understand how we can better position ourselves and essentially bet that when we plant, for example, we're not going to have a freeze. So everything is a bet in farming. In fact, I'll say this one thing. One grower once told me, it's like, if you've ever been to Las Vegas and you've ever gambled and lost $10,000 at a table, imagine my world where I'm planting a crop that cost me well over $3 million to plant into the soil, hoping that I get a return back on that $3 million, and then having a flood or a drought hit me and lose $3 million. He's like, imagine what that feels like. And that's really what we do as farmers and the stress that we're under. So if we can find ways with data science and ML to just take some of that pressure off and help make more strategic bets that have more probabilistic higher outcomes of success, then I've done my job in my career. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, it's a good mission.
Yeah.
You mentioned the stress that the farmers are under as regards to weather. Can you talk about other things that is stressing a farmer out when you're speaking to them on a daily basis? What are some of the main things that they're really stressed, frustrated about?
So they're seeing the impact on being out in rural communities and seeing the population changes that are occurring. So some of the stresses is, am I going to have experienced help to be out here to help me harvest this crop? Because I can't do it alone. But they're living out in western Nebraska or West Texas. Not a lot of people want to live out in West Texas to do their work. And so that's where we really tie back our mission on autonomy and why Deere is really focused on this, because it's not about, taking a person out. It's about filling a need that they cannot fill today and that gives them a lot of stress.
Yeah. And can you talk about why this is all important for people that aren't farmers? We speak to a lot of companies about a lot of things, and our audience sometimes are interested in cars, sometimes they're interested in sports, sometimes they're not interested in these things. But I think everybody should be interested in this conversation. Would you agree? And why is that so important?
Look at the shirt you're wearing.
Yeah.
Odds are your shirt, the food you're touching, a John Deere machine has impacted that at some point and touched it. If you want to have your clothes coming forward, you need this crop to be grown. And so what else is more important? It touches every part of our individual lives. Just we don't ever, maybe not even think about it or see it under the surface. But I guarantee you that your food, your clothes, at some point, a green machine has probably touched that crop that's on your back.
So we should all be really, really interested in this conversation.
Of course.
We need to be.
And if you really think about it too, I mean, with population changes, we have less farmland, and we're asking our farmers to do more with less every single day. More and more land is getting converted from agricultural into development land. And therefore, we are growing our population. Our land resources are shrinking. So every single day, we're asking more and more and more of our farmers to be able to grow these crops and provide us with all the things we see around us. I don't know what's a higher purpose than that for humanity.
Yeah. So stressful jobs, sometimes they're frustrated, but what's really exciting a farmer today? When you speak to them on a daily basis, what are some of the top things they're buzzing about?
Oh, man, they are, as I said, tech nerds at its core. Yep. When they see that pride of their field being worked autonomously without them, man, you see the smile in their eyes around, this is changing my life. I am so excited for this to be brought into my operation so that I can continue to grow and continue to expand. So I would say, behind the scenes of my team, I know the machine learning models that are going into that, and just it fills me with a lot of pride around how much they're excited about the tech we're bringing to them.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about some of that evolution then? So over the last 10 years, what did we not have 10 years ago that we have today, and what might we have in 10 years that we don't have today?
I would say, think about just the information. Now, let's just talk about what you had to do on a planter to understand how deep your seed was planted. So machine goes to the field, you manually adjust the setting. Back in the day, it would cut that trench. You drive maybe 100 yards, you have to get out of the cab, go dig into the soil, measure it, hop back in, do it again, adjust it, and you're spending all this time hopping in and out, in and out. Now, with live connectivity and with the data that we're getting, we can paint a map of exactly how deep that trench is. You don't have to hop out anymore. The machine itself is telling you what's going on behind you so that you're not spending your day and wasting time that is so precious to grow that revenue. So I would just say the amount of information we're serving, and now the way we've moved, and like maybe in the last 5 years, from just serving data and throwing that into their face for them to assess what's going on, and now we can start using techniques that start advising them of like, this is what's happened. You don't have to look at 10 layers to know what happened on your field. We can advise you that this is the optimal depth you had. This is the changes you can be making in the future, or this is you're going to get the confidence that this job was done really well. So I think that's the evolution I've seen from just a data and technology perspective around manual observations, lots of data, to now curated analysis that has really accelerated the space.
Can you think about what will happen in 10 years' time? What's the next step?
The next step is really, like I said, like the full autonomy journey. So we've had people in the cab. If it grows corn or soy by 2030, our machines are going to have the capability to be fully autonomous, which is really going to change. Just think about the stress, and you can manage your farm from a beach in Florida and have it be running, right? Like that's mind-blowing, the changes that are going to be happening when autonomy really comes to scale on the farm.
I want to be a farmer now.
Yeah.
Sounds
good.
good. A little condo in Florida.
Well, as I said, I'm hooked, right? Like, that's why I'm here. It's why I really took my meteorology background, and you'd have to drag me away from ag at this point.
Obviously, when you talk about farming, there's huge farms, big farmers, and then there's very, very small local farms. A lot of this technology, is it developed for the big farm first, and in the future, it might get to the local farmer?
That's really the beautiful thing about the tech that we're building, is that really the benefit it has and the way we're trying to bring it to market is that the average farm is about 450 acres in the US. So yes, we all see like headlines of larger farms and this are they're the only ones advanced with the technology, but really this tech expands all the way down to someone that's running 300 acres, 200 acres. And so it's on our shoulders to figure out, and we are, I believe, trying to bring that tech even to those farmers because they have some of the same challenges. They cannot find the labor. As they get older, the average age is into the high 50s, low 60s. They're not finding the people that are going to take up the mantle of their farm. And the last thing they want to see is that have that farm discontinue its legacy. And so really this automation software is also for them so that they can maintain that land and that pride and continue to farm with maybe even not having the labor.
I think automation is something that delights lots of people, but also scares lots of people. And there's always talk about automation taking people's jobs. I think if you're talking to a farmer and you can automate a lot of their workload, I'm sure they're going to be quite happy. But are there naysayers out there that are trying to stop some of the developments?
And when you take it at its surface, I think you really see that the farm, are people going to be going out to Western Nebraska to go work several months and then be idle? It's not about removing a job. It's really about putting that experience. So the people you do have that have been running your farm for 10 plus years, there are so many jobs on that farm that you need their skill set. And so if you can take away something that requires a high amount of skill and replace it with something autonomous so that they can do the next job, that's really what it's about. It's not about removal of jobs. It truly is about finding a way to optimize the talent that you have and take off the burden of something like tillage that is essentially lowering the tillage implement and driving. Yeah. That takes hours and hours on the day, but is so critical to the production step. So I really think of it as more of enabling high value labor to be applied in the most impactful way to keep that farm productive.
Okay. With all that work, there's lots of constraints. You mentioned the data quality, everything like that. Are there external constraints as well, like regulation, for example?
Yeah, we take obviously data very seriously. The way we've approached it is that the customer truly controls their data. So they have opted in to share information with us. They opt in our software to connect to over 200 different software companies that are in our platform, because to really grow a crop, it takes an army. You have your agronomy scientists, you have your ag service providers that are selling you your chemicals and your seeds. So you need a way to be able to share this information to all of them to help you truly become productive. And so we really think about that trust factor that we have to ensure and take all precautions to ensure that that data is secure and that those permissions that farmer are honored and that they really do have control over their information.
As a technologist, Tim, you're going to a lot of trade shows, you're seeing a lot of innovation. Is there some innovation that you think isn't maybe adopted in the farm enough today that you think in the future, that'd be really interesting to see?
It's a really good question. I've really, I've been taking the approach with logistics modeling as we've seen like traveling salesman problems, right? When you think about how UPS eliminates right or left turns, right, to improve safety. I'm really thinking about in ag how you have basically a fifth grade math problem. You own 4 sprayers. They have to apply 2 different products, but the products cannot be at the tank at the same time. You have 100 fields you have to go to. What is the right order, and how do you pair that product to really make it get done in the least amount of time and with the best quality you possibly can? And so I think about some of the logistics solutions that have been brought that optimize delivery, next day shipping, taking some of those concepts and actually applying it into the ag space is going to be a really powerful tool and honestly help us on our autonomy journey as well, because you have to be able to move the machines field to field. And so how do you do that when potentially a person isn't in the loop?
So exciting.
Yeah.
Give us some advice then, Tim, maybe 2 or 3 pieces of advice for a farmer that is listening to this and there's no automation, not really looking at their data, very much human experience going like that. What's the first couple of things that they should do after this interview?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, think about how you're looking at the future, right? So one of the key pieces that we talk about with being able to help grow or farmers really leverage the best of technology has to offer starts with connectivity. And so if you have a tractor that is not connected, the first step is you need to have data be flowing, right? And so think about how we have solutions out there that you can quickly connect your fleet and be able to start that transformation journey around how you start leveraging data in your operation. And that can be scary, but that's why we have dealerships, we have service providers. They're here to help this aging population really start the journey of technology and training. So that'd be for sure one thing. The second thing would really be around, as you think about the future of your farm, ensuring that you are building the scale in which you can be successful and continue that legacy. And think about how the labor concerns are happening, and to get to autonomy, you can't just jump to autonomy. You have to walk and crawl your way up with connectivity first, leveraging data second, finding a provider third, and then understanding exactly how each piece of data can give you insight to what's happened and start being open to how those practices can change. So I think I really am very interested as a product manager how we help people walk that journey all the way to autonomy, because it is at least a 4-step process.
Amazing. The smart farm, the autonomous farm, all very exciting.
Yeah.
Tim, thanks so much for joining the show.
Thank you, Sean.